Don't Risk It TV, episode 3. I'm Mick.
And I'm Naomi.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about questions that come in from a Matt from episode 1 that was actually sent through to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's based in relation to use of force.
Yep.
So my background, look, I'm a master weapons instructor, so I teach the highest end use of force. What I wanted to discuss is the use of force, and we're going to base it around the Act in Victoria, even though the Acts are very same or very similar in all states of Australia. Mm-hmm. But in the state of Victoria, the Use of Force Act is the Crimes Act 1958, and it's section 462A. The Act actually states, a person may use such force not disproportionate to the objective as he believes on reasonable grounds to be necessary to prevent the commission, continuance, or completion of an indictable offence, or to affect or assist in effecting the lawful arrest of a person committing or suspected of committing any offence. It's quite specific.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether we're working as a crowd controller, whether we're working as an armed guard, the Act is very specific in what we can actually do. We can apply force in a situation where we believe that force is needed to stop a very serious crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I'm not going to throw someone to the ground because they're jaywalking. It's a summary offence.
Yeah.
Let's be real, okay? The Act is saying we can use force to stop a serious crime. We can use enough force so this is not disproportionate, which is actually a strange sort of set of words, but not disproportionate. So not excessive or not extreme to the situation. So we can look at what is the actual situation going on. Do I have to use force? Can I use other options? Can I maybe leave a tactical disengagement? Could I summon help to the situation? Could I use other means in the situation? I might be able to step out of the way, close the door, so I don't have to use force. Or, as I said, I can summon help. So instead of being one person in the situation, now there's two, so I can use two people to control the situation.
So it's about risk assessing as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, in saying that, do we have time to take into the account these other options?
Yep.
So looking at where we are in security, obviously understanding what the act of law in the area where we are, what we can do. But that once we understand the Act, that making the correct option at the time or selecting the correct option at the time. Because at the end of the day, whatever force that you use, you are going to have to justify in a court of law. Why did you do this? Now, I train a lot of armed guards. So we're looking at the highest level use of force. So we have options available to us. We have a firearm, we have batons, we have hard empty hand techniques, we have soft empty hand techniques, we can do a tactical disengagement. What is appropriate at the time? Now, when I'm running through with the training of officers, we're looking at the scenarios that we run. Just because we're doing a training session in a baton, do I have to use the baton? If I'm doing a training session with a firearm, do I have to use the firearm? We try and set up the scenarios that not every scenario is a firearm solution. Not every scenario is a baton solution. It might be the correct answer is the person thinks for a moment and walks out of it because that is the best option. Unless they are backed into a corner where they have no means of escape, no means of backup, no means of communication, then they have to use some level of force.
Self-defense.
But they're going to have to justify that level of force to the police, to the courts. It could be they're facing criminal charges, they could be facing civil charges on the level of force that they've used. So, especially when I'm doing the training, for instance, if the student or the staff member I'm working with cannot justify why they just did a particular technique or why they just did a particular option, well, obviously, there's no way they could justify it. So we could look at the totality of the situation. What is going on at the time? Okay? What is the outcome that is going on at the time? Is this a life and death situation? Is it not a life and death situation? Okay? Can I talk my way out of the situation? Do I have to use force? Can I leave the situation? Do I have to stay in the situation? Am I using force to defend myself or defend an innocent person that they might not have the skills, the ability to defend themselves?
Yep.
So I may have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever I do, I have to be able to justify.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a very hard
And each situation is
topic to
very
discuss.
different, isn't it? Yeah.
because every situation is different.
Yep.
As you say, everything's different. I mean, in all the years I've been doing security, I have never come across the same exact scenario.
Yeah.
You've got to understand your options. You've got to understand what you're lawfully allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
How do we apply that? And then the other side to it is, what is the best judgment, or the good common sense to the situation?
Correct.
Now, we could be applying force in a situation where the person we're dealing with is intoxicated.
Or affected by.
Or affected by drugs.
Correct.
Or they could have a mental illness.
Exactly.
So where we could technically be justified in applying the force, it might not be the right option.
Right.
It's not the best common sense outcome. Does this person just need to rant and rave and scream and let it out, but they can do that at a distance? Do they need to be physically controlled?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's an interesting topic to discuss.
Mm.
In our training, we discuss it for weeks on end, giving the best option or understand to a student to what they can actually do. Now, we're not police officers.
No, that's right.
Okay, we're using a common law right for the application of force, but I'm not a police officer. I can assist a police officer.
Yep.
A police officer can assist me.
Yep.
I can assist a person who's in danger, but I'm not a police officer. Okay, the law, especially the law quoted, says that I can do this. I have a right to do this, but is the application at the force the right option at the time?
That's right. Yeah, and I mean that could include if you decide that you are going to restrain a person. Do you have support? Because you can lose, breath, and physically it's quite hard to restrain someone for a while. Isn't it?
If I went into a pub situation, and as I put across in training, if I went, people don't go to a bar by themselves. They might travel there by themselves, but they're meeting someone. So if I'm restraining someone to the ground because I have no other option, there is someone in the crowd that's going to be upset.
Correct.
That is their friend.
Absolutely.
Okay, or multiple friends.
Yep.
So where I think I might be working with one person, I might be trying to, end up dealing with 5 or 6 people who are now all upset.
Yep.
Depending on the situation. So the application of force must be justified.
Yes.
Okay. You must be able to explain why we've done this.
Exactly.
And to what level.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people out that say, oh, yes, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. It's an old line. I've heard it a million times. But actually going through a civil process or a criminal process of why, or even worse, a coronial inquest of why the person was in a strait and that maybe passed away because we've held them down too long, they've been put into positional asphyxia, or you get the situation of the one-hit punch. Oh, yes, I closed-fisted punched this person and they've hit the head on the gutter.
Correct.
And now we have a person that's died and we've got to go through a coronial inquest. That hasn't ended well for a lot of people. There has been many coronial inquests around Australia in people who've been held down in restraints, whether they have been can't breathe properly due to sand in the face or carpet or just having the weight of 4 or 5 people on their back.
That's right.
So looking at what are we doing at the time, is it a serious enough crime for the application of force?
Correct. And think about, as I said, you may have to go to court and justify your actions.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Or you explain to a client, why was this done? You're explaining to your employer, why was this done? It might not be actually within your company SOPs.
Correct. I know recently, actually, a staff member working for someone else had indicated that he had to go to an asset protection job where it was offenders were on site. And they had to use some batons to restrain one person because he was affected by substance. But in that assessment and whilst they were applying this use of force, his baton struck the kneecap of this offender, and obviously subsequently broke a kneecap.
Well,
we don't know, but this is what can happen. Correct. So it's about ensuring that you're across it all.
Absolutely, and especially was the application or is the application of force justified? What is the outcome or what is the worst case scenario scenarios going on.
Absolutely.
So that was a quick overview of use of force. We're going to discuss more in the next episodes. We're looking at use of force continuums and resistance levels. But quickly answer Matt's question, just a brief overview.
Exactly.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.
Yep, don't risk it. Bye-bye.